40 years together, and suddenly every routine is torn apart. When retirement hits, studies show conflict spikes by 27% within the first year, leaving even the strongest marriages on uncertain ground. For couples like Tom and Linda, what comes next isn't a second honeymoon, but something far more unsettling. What happens after decades of stability when you wake up next to a stranger? Arguments break out over things that never mattered before: the dishwasher, the thermostat, who gets the sunny chair in the morning. In that first year after retirement, couples spend nearly every waking hour together, more than at any other stage of marriage since their honeymoon. The National Institute on Aging tracked a 27% spike in marital conflict during this time, a pattern confirmed across diaries and counseling notes. For Tom and Linda, the shift is immediate. Tom used to leave before sunrise, returning home just in time for dinner. Now his presence fills every corner of the house. Linda, who once moved through her routines in quiet control, finds herself interrupted. Tom comments on her cooking, suggests new laundry systems, even follows her from room to room. Their days collide instead of running parallel. The home, once a place of comfort, becomes a stage for power struggles that neither saw coming. Studies show this constant overlap strips away the last bits of personal space, forcing long-set roles into the open. In therapy records, couples describe a sense of being watched or feeling displaced in their own kitchens and bedrooms. The old workday separation, once taken for granted, turns out to have been a kind of armor. Without it, small disagreements flare into daily battles, and the question lingers: can 40 years of habit survive this sudden, relentless closeness? Jim McIntyre spent 40 years building a career that defined his days and, without realizing it, shaped every conversation at home. Even after retirement, his words still sound like meetings: brief, practical, careful to avoid emotion. His wife, Mary, sits across the kitchen table, waiting for something deeper, but most evenings pass in silence. In therapy, Jim admits he never learned how to talk about feelings. Not really. He says, "I was taught to keep my head down, provide, and not complain." Mary nods, recalling anniversaries spent alone while Jim worked late, or the quiet tension that followed family gatherings he missed. Studies from the Journal of Family Psychology describe this pattern as role rigidity, when couples lock into habits that once kept the peace but now keep them apart. Over time, the language of partnership narrows to logistics: bills, errands, medical appointments. A recent survey found that more than 70% of retired men struggle to express vulnerability, a gap that grows wider with each year of unspoken resentment. Therapists like Mary McIntyre see a 3-point rise in dissatisfaction scores among couples who cling to these old roles, even as they share the same space. For Jim and Mary, the hardest part isn't the arguments. It's the distance that settles in after, when the house grows quiet and neither knows what to say. 62% of adults over 55 say they sleep in the same bed but feel alone. In homes once filled with noise and routine, silence settles like dust. Sarah, now in her late 30s, remembers coming back to visit her parents after college. She found her mother reading in the living room, her father watching TV in the den, both within shouting distance, yet separated by invisible walls. The laughter and arguments that once defined family life had faded into parallel lives under the same roof. Pew Research calls this the new loneliness of aging marriages, where nearly half of women and 15% of men admit to feeling isolated, even with a spouse nearby. Dr. Arlene Brown, a sociologist who studies late-life relationships, describes the gender gap Women often reach for connection, while men, raised to be stoic, retreat further. Adult children like Sarah watch their parents drift, unsure whether to intervene or respect the quiet. The cost of silence isn't measured in arguments, but in the slow erosion of intimacy, one unspoken day at a time. Ellen and Mike sit at their kitchen table, a pad of paper between them. For years, their conversations circled around chores, bills, and the weather. But on Tuesday nights, they try something new, a 5-minute emotion talk. One speaks while the other listens, no interruptions, no advice. Mike, who once struggled to name his own feelings, surprises himself by saying, "I miss the way we used to laugh." Ellen nods, sharing her own worries about growing old together. Dr. Patel, their counselor, suggested this routine, along with a gratitude journal they keep by the bed. Each night they write down one thing they appreciate about each other. Over time, the changes add up. Arguments drop by nearly a third, and a quiet warmth returns to their home. National studies find couples like Ellen and Mike report a 22% rise in relationship satisfaction and even feel as if life is almost a year longer. For them, hope doesn't come from grand gestures, but from small, steady efforts, choosing presence over pride, and rediscovering each other, one conversation at a time. Today, gray divorce rates are still rising. For millions, the real test of partnership comes after the career ends. Emotional distance isn't fate, it's a choice. What would you choose?